Welcome to another episode of the Simon Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. Today's guest that we have on today is going to be Coby Merrill. We're going to have that interview on later in the show. We're going to have the boys on to talk about what is going on with the transfer portal and all of the news that's been going on with people leaving schools, different job openings, what's happening with CBU, and a lot of other stuff. I'm really excited for this episode. I can't wait to show it to you guys. So if you haven't yet, make sure you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify and all the major social media platforms. But you can keep talking about how you failed at fantasy. Keep going.
No, I did not fail. Look, it was a 90 person. You pick your 1 through 8 at every single weight class. I think the buy-in was $25. I got in on this thing last year. It's a lot of East Coast people. Um, and I brought Brady in this year because I took eighth last year in it out of I don't even know how many. I made a couple bucks off of that. Took seventh this year with more people in it, which was great. But then Brady freaking wins it. Like kills it. Has scored the most points out of everyone. You got like if you picked someone to take first and they took first, you got 8 points. And if you pick someone to take eighth and they took eighth, you got 1 point. And if they finished somewhere in the middle, you picked them, but they didn't land in the same spot, you got the difference. So it was pretty much, try and pick the 8 All-Americans.
Do you have to put your money in up front before
Yeah,
it starts? That's
yeah,
good because that way no one can welch on their
yeah,
bet.
yeah. And then the guy's really cool. His name's Christian Schnook. Don't know what state he's out of, but super cool dude. He's really well organized. And maybe we'll find a way to tag him in this.
I'm excited to talk about the last couple days. It seems like we heard some rumblings, and Sean, I know you might have heard some rumblings maybe a little bit sooner than we did. There were some moves that I feel like potentially can make sense, especially as some guys that I think are graduating. But there's certainly a lot of things that are going on the board right now that for me, as somebody that's a big fan of, especially Stanford, and after having a great year and a great NCAA tournament, the fact that some of their guys that were actually injured are now entering the portal
Mhm.
kind of sucks to hear.
Yes, but also consider this. They finished, what did they finish at NCAA's as a team?
Six.
Six,
Six. Yeah.
without Garvin and without Norman. I mean, yeah, it hurts to not have those guys returning. I'm sure I saw a tweet from Ayers saying like, hey, or a post saying like, hey, they're not gone yet. So I'm sure there's works to be done there. But even if Garvin and Norman are gone, I don't see Stanford just completely falling off. It's not like the team is just going to melt and crumble. I think they got a lot of top talented guys that are still coming in. I think they
hmm
have guys that are still developing. And there was a few guys that redshirted this year that are super tough. And Grigor's coming back. So, you know, uh, I think that they're still in a great place. I think that Ayers and Co. are doing a great job, and I'm super excited to see who they bring in for interviews and potentially hire as that assistant coach take over for Hidley. But I think Stanford's in a great spot. Yes, losing Knox and Garvin and Norman in one offseason, it's going to ding a little bit, but it's not to the point where they're not in the conversation anymore.
I agree. I think it's just like a bummer. It's like, man, especially like we're on the West Coast, we support Stanford so much. I like to see those West Coast teams thrive. And man, just seeing their potential with the team that they have, it's like, oh man, we kind of miss out on that. But I agree. I think they'll be able to reload just fine. They're bringing in such solid recruiting classes, and I mean, the guys that All American for them this year, I mean, they brought in themselves. So,
Yep.
um, what Coach Ayers is doing speaks for itself. It's just, dang, it's such a bummer to see what those guys could do, what they could have done this year.
Yeah, I got to give a little bit of credit to Rob Cole too, because some of those guys were his recruits.
You're right.
But Ayers is doing a great job.
What's this year? This is 2026. Is
I
that
think
if I'm
so.
trying to look at WrestleStat? Um, I
It's
don't
a
know any of these guys.
it's a tough website to navigate with all the ad pop-ups, but
Yeah, geez, man.
yeah.
We need to.
Hey,
Hey, I was thinking about this earlier, and I've been watching I watched the Social Network, and it's like, when's a good time to start advertising? Man, what we have right now on the website is cool, and I don't want to close the party at 11. And if you've seen that movie, I'm referencing directly, but I'd say no on the advertisements right now. Speaking of which, if you guys haven't gone to Captain B Seasonings, they got some great seasonings. Get some prime red. Brian Harris, he makes some really good stuff in Bakersfield. But yeah, I don't want to sell out and do a bunch of advertisements.
Me neither. I think it's just not the season for that.
And if you're gonna do it, like one at the start and then be done. Stop having it like continuously. Every time I click a new weight class, I'm getting a new ad, and I'm like, dude, this is annoying. I'm currently looking for recruiting class rankings, and I'm sorry for not having them up sooner.
I'm
Who's
interested. I'm curious if CBU's going to transfer a couple guys up there. The guy I'm looking at 65 is at Shum. You know, Shum had a really good
Mhm.
season the second half. He's finally healthy. I wonder if that's a situation that can go up as a grad transfer and wrestle that 1 year to let them get that other recruiting class in at 65s.
it's going to be tough to get in though.
I think, well, one, yes, acceptance rate isn't very, very hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
But two, I don't even know if that's a need weight right now. I mean, you've got Parco at 65, who just did phenomenal, and people don't even realize like
Will
he
he
was
stay
wrestling.
there though? He won't
I don't
stay at
know.
65,
I
right?
don't. It
I think he goes to
worked. It
57s.
worked, and he was wrestling up.
Yeah.
Imagine if he has a whole nother off season of actually developing that size, he could also redshirt.
Yeah.
Grigor comes back. Does he go to 57 or does he go to 65? It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure he's going to wrestle at the U.S. Open, or maybe he's wrestling at one of the um, like ranking series tournaments because I know he's in full freestyle mode right now. But it'd be interesting to see what he's weighing. Um, but yeah, I don't even know if that's a need weight. They also have Dylan Pyle out of Los Gatos.
Hmm.
Um, Pyle or Piles? Pyle, not Piles. That's the flow guy.
Now I know the portal just opened. You know, we're looking at maybe 24 hours. I think we're at what 30 hours since it opened, but we haven't seen too many big name guys. And I don't want to take anything away from Garvin or Knox or
He's a
Crookham.
two-time All-American, man.
Like I said, I don't want to take
How
anything
bigger
away
can it
from,
get?
well, considering last year when you start looking at guys and whether it was Facundo and Rocco and you know even AJ and some of those bigger well-known guys. Again, not that Garvin and Knox and Crookham aren't. Now, I think we saw today was did Bergie get in there too, your boy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Berkey's in there.
So, I mean, you got a couple guys, whether it's Fugit, but it seems that this year the big names haven't dropped yet.
I mean, there's a lot of All-Americans in the portal right now. You have Edmund Ruth,
Totally
you have
forgot about him, by the way.
Indine, who still has another year. Yeah, and then you have Fugit, Berge, Crookham, Knox, Garvin. I mean, and then Norman too.
I
Lorenzo Norman's in
mean,
there.
yeah, but I think what Brian's saying, what the other Brian is saying, is that they haven't like April 1st wasn't like they all did it ahead of time. Crookham, all the Stanford guys, we heard about it ahead of time. He's talking about, and I mean, no, yeah, no offense to some of these other guys. Like Nicolas Rivera is a big name, but he's not like one of the biggest guys. Crookham's a bigger name, and so there's no offense to him, but some of these kind of newer guys, I mean, Fugit's one of the bigger names, Fugit and Berge, that came out on April 1st. I mean, same with Hunter Garvin and stuff, but we already knew that. But I agree. I thought it was going to explode yesterday, and it did with the numbers. But I expected a lot more higher ranked guys to jump right in.
I mean, it's trickling right now. Like Ethan
Yeah,
Perriman jumped in the portal. I don't know if you saw that, Brian. But
Yeah.
I think you're going to see maybe some big names. But I think it's honestly there's a lot of interesting guys that are in the portal right now. Where if you kind of do your homework and watch some film, these guys are ready to go. Like they've just been sitting behind some tough guys that are
hmm
maybe in front of them.
I mean, a couple first year guys too. Only 1 year with still 4 years. You look at Zapata, you look at Thompson. Those guys
Well,
are all right. Sweet.
So
They're in there, but they've only wrestled 1 year, and they really haven't really wrestled. You know, they redshirted or they were stuck behind a couple guys, but interesting. We got a couple California kids in there. You had mentioned Perryman. He's been sitting behind a couple guys there at Iowa State and officially enters the portal and see what he can do. Maybe start somewhere else along the way. But even little guys, who's that kid out of Utah? The freshman kid. Um, he was only there 1 year. Why am I blanking on his names? It's like Elmer or Emmer, Alex Emmer. I think it's Emmer.
Where's he from?
He was at Utah Valley State, but or at Utah Valley. What my point is that you're seeing a lot of these 1 year guys or freshmen get into the portal. They signed.
Oh,
They
Tyler
were
Ice. Yeah. From
well. Ice was
Nebraska.
Ice was there too. So
Well, he's at Nebraska.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they get to their schools, and then 1 year in, they're like, I'm bouncing ship. Whether that's the NIL money or whether that's, hey, I got to sit behind this guy. I'm not going to make this weight. I got to go up a weight. You're seeing a lot of guys now, I think this year, that just want to wrestle instead of
Hmm.
stay behind and you know, be behind somebody in a room.
I think it needs to be something where maybe it's not the right culture fit. Maybe for certain people, maybe it's like what you said. Maybe it's like I want to be able to start sooner so I can get more matches underneath my belt. Some of these guys that have only been there a couple of years in their at their school, they haven't really accumulated a big enough resume where I think they're necessarily going to be looking for a payday through NIL.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it could be something to where maybe it's a culture thing. Maybe it's a homesick thing. Maybe they want to go back to their home state. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons to enter the portal. But I think for some of these bigger guys, these bigger names, maybe not the to Brian's standard big, but the guys that are like Hunter Garvin and Lorenzo Norman and guys like that, they've graduated. So it seems like from that Chris Harris tweet where, hey, maybe we're working at kind of see how we can get these guys back. But at the same time, it's like, if you have ties from other places and you're obviously very capable, not just as a starter, but get on the podium, like that's going to be a high dollar amount, I think, going into the portal for some of these bigger schools that are looking for guys to fill in spots in their lineup.
And everybody's really young.
Hmm.
Look at the NCAA champs this year. I think only two are leaving. So you've got these schools, these big schools that are set in their ways and they've created their own foundation. And now you got guys locked into their weight classes or up and down a little bit. So a little bit less movement this year from the top elite guys.
For now.
And I think it's interesting. Like I think it's great. They want to find a new home, find a better place for them. I want to prevent, and I don't want to attack a guy like this, but Jordan Williams, what is it going to be? 4 schools in 4 years?
Yep.
It's just to me that's taking advantage, and to me it's like so you're not a culture fit anywhere, and it just shows like I mean maybe he's wrestling at the wrong level. I mean he's got the ability to wrestle Division 1, but it seems like all the extracurriculars are just getting in his way. I was bummed not to see him compete the Big Tens, but the brands made their decision. But a guy like that, he just 1 year hop, 1 year hop, and I mean, what is it? What does that tell about a guy? I don't love it, and I hope he finds a good home wherever he goes next, and I hope he succeeds in All Americans. But man, trying to get these guys ready for the real world, I think this is a good taste of that. But a guy like Jordan Williams is just taking advantage of it at this point. Same with
Yeah.
Ferraris.
What did he start at? Like Okie State,
Okie State,
and then Little Rock,
Little Rock,
and then
Iowa.
and now wherever he lands.
Maybe he needs to go back to Little Rock. I mean, obviously that's where he's had his most successful year.
Yeah.
It's a smaller program, and I think they're a little bit more hands-on in terms of like maybe building connections and relationships. Not necessarily saying that Iowa and Oklahoma State didn't, but think about where you maybe had the most support and had the most success. Plus, I don't think he's a 57 pounder. I think he needs to go back down to 149s. But I disagree with you, Warren. I think he's crushing the TikTok game. And I know Sean O'Rourke's a big fan.
He is crushing the TikTok game. I can't hate on that.
I can. I don't have TikTok, so maybe it's just my older generation. Not for me. I'm an adult. I wait until at least it comes out on Instagram Reels 2 days later.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, his TikToks are I would not say they're my favorite, but he does put a lot of effort into them. But I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, do you go? I mean, you don't really see that though. Have we seen someone
No.
hit the portal and go back to a school after spending a year elsewhere? Like, it just doesn't seem like. I think by that time, most bridges are kind of burned. Coaches begin to look at other recruits to fill those holes, and you don't really ever see someone return. But maybe a program of that level or size, um, would be a better fit for him versus a perennial program like Iowa.
Mhm.
It's definitely hard to justify like throwing a Hail Mary and trying to go either give this guy a big chunk of your scholarship. I'm assuming he's not going to go to a big school. I'm sure he's going to go to a smaller mid-major or a smaller Division I school. But it's like, are you willing to put in that amount of cash then? Because they're not, some of these schools aren't rocking 9.9. They're like 4.5 scholarship, 4.5 full scholarship. So you're possibly going to give this guy a full ride to come out to your school. That's a big chunk of what you normally bring in. And yeah, it could pay off and you could have success, or it could totally flounder.
I mean, I think this is where teams like Bakersfield come into the mix. They got AJ for the year. You can snag Jordan Williams for a year, and who knows? I mean, he's got a shot to All-American every year he makes it to the tournament. So, something for a team like that to consider. And I mean, maybe Jordan's just going to reach options kind of like AJ did at the time, where you might not have any other options. So you either wrestle here or you don't wrestle. I think that'd be
Hey,
interesting.
just quick reminder, AJ chose Cal State Bakersfield. Okay, it's not like we were his only option. He could have gone to Division II school in Iowa, and he got a pretty good deal, I think, to go over there.
Yes, I agree with you, but I also think that one of his very few options for the D1 route was to go there.
Yeah, you could say few by like meaning one, and that
Yeah.
yes, you would be correct.
Yeah.
But his only option, not totally accurate. I mean, he could have gone to a JC or an AI or
Oh
a
yeah.
D3.
My prediction with him is I think he stays at Nebraska, and I think he goes down to 97. I think Cade Ziola gets the start at heavyweight. I believe Camden McDaniel is a graduate. So
Mm-mm. But
no.
they might redshirt Camden because I
Oh,
think
that's right. He has a red shirt available.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think
So
I think that'd be a great idea.
I think that'd be a great plan.
What was AJ, 225 this year? Like I didn't see any of his
Yeah,
other
wasn't he
posts,
like 230, 240 at most?
Boy looked thick though.
but
For
he
sure.
did. He
Boy was
looked
eating some
he looked
steak and some
healthy.
ice cream.
Yeah, but
And
against like the elite, I mean, against
Younger.
guys he lost to, younger specifically, it
maybe he
showed.
can switch to 4 steaks a day instead of 12 and then lean down a little bit and get to one. Maybe he can get to, let's say 210 and then cut 13 each week and get down to 97s.
I think the option is definitely there. It's going to be more, I think, what Manning and staff want to do for their
Yeah.
lineup. But Cade's tough. I think he's going to be a great heavyweight. He's long, lanky, and tough.
Him and
Um,
Posada have had some great matches. So I
yeah,
mean, I think seeing Posada All-American, you're like, whoa.
yeah. So yeah, I think he's right there in the mix. I think, he might not obviously do as well as AJ did. Um, but who knows?
One school that kind of got hit in the gut a little bit, especially after the national tournament, was Zan Fugit. School Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
Was Zan Fugit and our
Rivera.
boy Nicola Rivera. Both those guys just getting taken out, and then plus you got John Reeder leaving to kind of take a job out of wrestling. What a tough situation they're kind of put in right now. It's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens.
Big Tens are tough, man. Like inside, outside. Some of those guys, again, Big Ten's the best conference in the nation.
Oh yeah.
But some of those guys just want to compete. And when you're getting a record of 19 and 12 or, 19 and, let's say 9, maybe we talked about it earlier on an earlier pod on the seeding. Maybe you transfer out of a Big Ten school and wrestle a little bit softer schedule and gain your wins and totals, and maybe you get a higher seed along the way. I mean, I'm not saying that those guys are dodging, but
Go to
maybe
an
that,
ACC school. You're right.
yeah. You mentioned that numerous times before, but if you get a better record, maybe you're going to get a little bit more visibility. And maybe that's what those guys are thinking at Wisconsin. Or they saw that Reader taking a peek out and, hey, he's our guy. We got to go.
I mean, both these guys, both Fugit and Rivera, I mean, they're 25, 33 pounders. I mean, these guys are training partners in the room together, and they're both hitting the portal at the same time. How much of this stuff do you feel like guys are talking to each other behind the scenes? I know, Sean, you might have your perspective maybe from stuff that you see. But I know for sure, just kind of being a little bit closer to the Bakersfield scene, some of these guys, like, I see on a regular basis. Like I ran into a couple guys at Chipotle yesterday. And I was like, hey, I'm not going to get any surprises, right? And they're like, or 2 days ago. And I'm like, I'm not going to get any surprises, right? And they're like, nah, we're staying. I'm like, all right, good deal. But it's like things like that where it's like maybe, do you think there's a lot of conversations between these guys maybe behind the scenes?
I do. I think there is. I mean, we saw it with Jordan Williams and Nasir Bailey. They both left Little Rock together to go to Iowa. I do think it happens. I don't think it always is executed as such. But I definitely think, like, obviously, as training partners, you got to imagine Fugit and Rivera are close, and they are probably main training partners with one another. And in an ideal scenario, a program that needs a 25 and a 33 would take them and give them the financial comfort that they were looking for. They're
As a
probably
package
taking it.
deal.
Yeah, package deal.
Mm.
But is that the case for every single program that's, looking at the portal and looking to grab guys? No. So I think if the shoe fits, yeah, but it's not always going to work out that way.
I mean, do you think they're leaving because of money reasons?
I think most of these people are leaving because of money
Yeah.
reasons.
I think the successful ones, the ones who've accomplished something, and not to say others haven't, but if you're an All-American, I think it carries a ton of weight. If you're not, hopefully you're around a 12 guy or something like that, like Nicolar. But Zan Fugit, I think they're worth a lot, and I think it's cool if they were to be like, hey, let's get in the portal together and let's see if someone will take us as a package deal. I think that stuff is cool. But I think Sean's right. I think it's probably all over the place. I'd just be
I also
interested
think
to see
with
those
like
conversations.
with the grad transfers, right? Like those ones are a little bit different.
Mhm.
You graduate if you, especially if you're graduating in 4 years, which most of them are, and they've got that fifth year to go wrestle somewhere else, a little bit different. Go take
Mhm.
the money where you can find it, or go find the program that best suits what your goals are. But some of these guys who are graduating in 3 years, like we talked about this in the group chat the other day, that's a plan. Like those
Mhm.
guys came into college with a plan. I'm gonna take extra classes. I'm gonna take classes during the summer. I'm gonna graduate early so that I can go and catch a bag for my last 2 years.
Mhm.
That's a plan. You don't just get through your freshman year of taking standard, regular schedule classes, especially in an athlete schedule where you've got morning weights and afternoon practice where you don't get to take a class during those hours. You plan that well in advance, and that is something that's thought of from very early on in the
Mhm.
process.
Yeah, you're in a situation. I think most student athletes are taking 12 units during the semester of their quarter. I think when you start going a little bit beyond that, it's like it's a heavier workload. But I know like certain schools they really kind of follow the rules, and I think things have kind of evolved with the RTC schedule. But it used to be something to where unless you were taking classes on campus, you were kind of limited. I think with the amount of time you could actually spend in your wrestling room with a coach. I'm not sure how that necessarily has evolved in terms of compliance. But I know with the RTC thing, it's like it's kind of like you can kind of have RTC practices and kind of get around that and do camps
Mhm.
and things like that. But no, I definitely I think that's an interesting take by Sean. It's where it's like guys like maybe Garvin and Knox, they've only been there. This is like only their third year there, right?
I know for Garvin, or for Norman, it's his third year. Or actually, yeah, yeah, it has to be his third year. Can't be more than three.
Well,
So I'm not too
Knox was
sure
a
on that.
senior in 2023,
He
so
just finished his third
he
year.
just finished his third year.
Yeah, and maybe the same for Garvin.
Yeah.
Which to do that at that prestigious of an academic school, I mean, that's got to be so hard. That's got to be insanely hard. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
I'm not bashing the game plan.
No, no.
I'm calling a sheep a sheep.
I mean, some of these courses, though, when I was talking to Ty Montero, speaking of Stanford, he was saying he's taking some like ethnic studies course where basically they were having a luau and they were learning like some Pacific Island language. I don't mean to bash some of them, but it's like you could major in that, man.
Yeah.
You just have
Yeah,
a barbecue,
nah, it's a lot
and
more
that's your
rigorous
class.
than that, man. I mean,
I'm
some
more
of
What?
curious,
Go
do
ahead.
any of you guys have predictions for some of these guys, right? I can give you one off the top of my head because we were just talking about him is Garvin. I think he's going to somewhere in Iowa. I don't know if it will be Iowa per se, but maybe an Iowa State or a UNI.
what gives you that inclination?
It's where he's from. That's his home state. I think all three of those programs are obviously great. Um, and I could totally miss the ball, but that's my prediction. He's going somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. I mean, who does Iowa State have right now at 65s? They have Uten.
Yeah. Connor Ute.
And then who else is around that bubble? I mean, you have
Guy
MJ. MJ's up
Gaitan's at
up a weight,
74s.
But I don't. I mean, I don't think they would. It wouldn't be
Frost,
illegal to put those guys the same weight. Think Frost goes 65s?
I don't know.
Small. Is
He,
Zerban graduating?
Zervin's got to be close to being done.
I think he's done. I think this was his last year. I just can't. I guess we'll take a look.
I have the rankings up.
Yeah, Uden's got one more year. You got MJ who's got another year. They had another guy at 65s. I think was wrestling a few matches. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, Aiden
Didn't they have
Riggins. Aiden
a
Riggins got another year.
yes, Riggins? They had Riggins from
Don't forget
Iowa.
Manny Rojas. Manny Rojas was spot starting a couple times last year too.
you get a lot of these guys spot starting.
Hmm.
They're trying to fulfill their five if they're trying to redshirt, but then you see a lot of these kids wrestling the duels, whether they're your backup. They know that they're looking to get on the mat. So some of these schools throw these guys out there, get some tape on these guys so that they can transfer out here come the end of the
Hmm.
season.
I would say a good guess for Garvin too would be like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these guys that are on the top end, you gotta be looking at big programs like Oklahoma State, Iowa, Iowa State, people that are in kind of title contention or is possibly a team trophy for next year. They got to be kind of gunning for some of these guys to kind of fill in some of their lineup spots. I'm trying to think who's going to be possibly in the lineup at 65 next year.
At Iowa State,
No, at Iowa.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
they're not necessarily super deep. I don't think at those
No.
weights.
I'm wondering if your boy
I was just about to ask you.
jumps into the lineup.
Who's
I know the
boy?
flow guys had mentioned it at kind of maybe 57, but what's his weight looking like?
Who?
Miguel.
Maggie,
Yeah, Miko.
I mean, he. I mean, I love that kid, but he puts on a little bit of weight over the summertime. But his frame, I mean, it kind of limits him unless he's going to get taller. He's probably
Yeah.
going to be a 49, 57 pounder. But I just want him to be healthy. I mean, he's kind of suffered some injury stuff. He's supposed to wrestle at Soldier Salute and end up getting banged up. But yeah, I just want him to be healthy. So, but I don't. Yeah, I don't think he goes 65s.
does Gabe Arnold make a cut?
Oh yeah.
No.
No?
The
74.
74s?
74.
Yeah,
Yes.
74.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, he fills in for
I
Kennedy.
wasn't saying he was getting down to
Yeah,
75s.
no, for
So
sure.
that would
I
be
see where
great
you
for
were at,
Garvin
Brian.
then. You put Garvin in at
That's where
65s,
I'm
you get
going with
Arnold
it.
coming down
Yeah.
to 74s, you get Harvey Ludington to start at 97s. Shoot, you could go get Lorenzo Norman too. I mean,
Mhm.
here's the thing, like if I'm thinking brands, it's like,
Wait,
okay, let's learn
what about
what?
Ferrari?
Yeah, Ferrari.
Oh yeah, that
Well,
guy.
Oh yeah.
Forgot about him.
didn't you see he entered the transfer portal yesterday with all the April Fool stuff?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
Anthony entered the portal.
that's
His brother
right.
did.
The brother did.
Yeah.
For I think his third time in the portal.
Yeah.
He was at Morgan State last year, right?
I
No,
think
he's at Campbell.
I think he's been to
Campbell.
4 schools himself.
Yeah.
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 Hey, take a world tour, man. Check out all the schools.
I
I
You know,
know.
think
why are we hating on this experience? Why not check out all of the schools and get like a full experience?
I agree. Like the Jesse Vasquez college experience. Like
yes.
take it from high school to college.
Yes.
He almost did it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
He
How
almost
often
did
does
that
that
in
happen?
college too.
yeah.
What about US Open entries? What are some big entries that you
Mhm.
guys have seen that maybe we see potential matchups? Like I'm looking at 65s right now. Was it 65s? Yeah, I'm looking at 65. No, was it 65s I was looking at? There's some big names that are in there, and I know some of the guys like I think Bo Bassett and Melvin Miller are going to be doing double entries. They're
Yeah.
doing the younger
20s.
age group
Mhm.
and the senior level stuff too.
And it's crazy because Bo could win seniors this year. He could be the guy.
He could
At,
definitely be the guy.
at 65s?
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
crazy for him doing both. The flow guys were talking about it and just mentioned he's kind of spreading himself thin. I mean, PJ and those guys were doing that last year. I definitely think Bo's one of those guys. It'll just be
That
interesting to see.
weight's not going to be easy. I mean,
No.
just looking at it, 57s, the top two guys I'm seeing is Anthony Knox. Vincent Robinson throwing his name in the hat. I don't know the last time I've watched him wrestle freestyle, so that'll be exciting. And Eric Barnett, very tough out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
61s, you've got Jax Force and Seth Gross and Nathan Tomasello. That's going to be awesome. And then 65s, man, it's
65's
insane.
crazy.
It's insane. You got Vito making the bump up, changing his weight, changing his approach to the things, I believe. Joey McKenna, who's always in the mix no matter what year. Bo
Yeah,
Bassett and Bo Bartlett. I mean, that's going to be awesome.
I'm
I
excited to
was
see Vito up a weight. I think everybody kind of watched him wrestle last year when he was wrestling off against Jax Forrest at Fargo. And it's like clearly he looked off. Like his motor wasn't quite there. He looked like he was kind of sluggish. He just looked off. And it's like I hope he's up a weight. He's feeling good. He's healthy because when he's at his best, he is so good. He's
So
so
good.
tough, and he's a
Yeah.
tough matchup for anybody.
And he's got the frame for 65. I mean, he's always been longer and lankier for his weight, but I think now just probably filling out the right way. And I feel like the Spartan Combat RTC has always done a good job with weight training and keeping guys strong. I mean, Dake was a perfect example of that before he left. And I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to do great. And I'd love to see him in Bassett. I think that would be super fun to watch.
Plus,
I
too,
was
like what's his plan for after this year? It's like, okay, you gotta kind of make a decision. Are you gonna go 57s or are you gonna go 65s for the Olympics? Because there's no 61 kilos.
it sounds like he made the decision now. That's what it seems like to me. I feel like guys are starting now. We're getting closer. I think they're starting to shift into where they're probably going to go. I think that shows me he's probably going to go 65. But I think it's good. I think that's a better route than him going down.
That means 92 kilos is gonna be light this year. So this is my chance to make my redemption arc.
Your
So
time.
speaking of 92 kilos, it's funny you brought that up.
Yeah,
We were just talking about it at our practice yesterday. What is the plan for Mr. Trent Hidley? You know, he's been
I
crushing
agree.
worlds at 92 kilos. Does he go up to 97 and try to take it from Snyder, or does he go down to 86 and try and take it from Zahid or Dake or Keckeisen or any of those other guys that are in the mix down at 86 for the Olympic year? So that's going to be really interesting too.
I think he stays up.
Think he goes up
Yeah.
to 97.
Well, I mean, we still got another year and a half,
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
time.
But
You got time. We were thinking long term the other day, you know, and after watching RAF and all that stuff and just kind of was spitballing ideas, it's tough. Those Olympic weights being so limited makes it so much harder.
Yeah. I wish they would open it up to 10 weights. That would just give us everything we ever wanted. And it is fun, the matchups we get in the Olympic years, but you just kind of feel like, man, these guys are not choosing their best weight. They're just choosing their next best available weight.
I mean, for
Oh,
some of these matchups, if you look at 92 kilos right now for the US Open, it's like you got Michael Machiavello, you got Aiden Sinclair, you got Dustin Plyte, you got Cody Merrill. I mean, that right there, that's going to be a pretty fun little bracket.
Jacob
Sinclair, the
Cardenas,
cream of the
too.
crop there.
Huh?
Sinclair, the cream of the crop.
I mean, you got to give props to Michael Machiavello. Wasn't he a world team member at one
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
maybe
I
two
think
years ago.
I think Merrill would be an interesting match for Sinclair because he's good at shutting down offense and his
And
recent.
Jacob Cardenas. Forgot about Cardenas.
Yeah,
Jacob
Jacob
Cardenas.
Cardenas is tough. I was just about to say, don't sleep on him. So
No.
I'm
Don't
I'm
sleep
not
on
going to sleep on
Ross.
him. What did you say, Brian?
Is Drayshawn Ross there too?
no, I don't
No,
see
he'll
him in here
be
yet.
the heavies.
He'd probably be U20
Yeah.
unless he wants to do the Open as well.
I
But as
doubt it.
far as I know, the only two that are doing that is Bassett and Miller,
Mhm.
the U20 Open split, which that's crazy. I mean, being at the US Open last year for my first time and watching it's it's chaotic, it's hectic and wrestling two tournaments at the same time. I think Sinclair did it last year.
Yeah.
Um, that's insane.
I mean, there's just so many
DJ.
wrestling. Like I'm looking at, I mean, you look at some of the brackets, like what you're saying, Sean. You look at some of these age groups where it's like, you have like 70 people in your bracket, and it's like you're looking at the USA bracketing on your phone, and you zoom out, and there's like all these people, and it's like you realize that's just to get into the quarterfinal, and it's
Hmm.
like, dude, that's so much wrestling all packed into a couple days. It's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
is that are any of you guys gonna be out there?
I will be.
I'm gonna try to get Oren a media credential to be there.
Let's go. I'm already gonna have I'm like setting up the mats and stuff, so I'll have like passes and stuff. But
Oh.
He's like, I don't need your help, but I appreciate it.
And we're doing all the video stuff, so
let's
I'll be there.
go.
Yeah.
So, Oren, basically what you're saying is you can be on the floor and you
I
can
can be
get
on the mat.
some
I'm gonna be
coverage.
getting interviews during the 30-second break. That's what we're working on this year.
Hey, maybe
Okay.
Brands will call me back this year. Hey, Tom, Don't ghost me, man. I mean, I know you got bigger things out there, but like I thought everything was reasonable last year. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Season's
send you,
over.
I'm gonna send
Yeah.
you another text. Like, hop on the pod with us. Help us out.
Yeah, I mean, if you see him this year, definitely throw some shade his way.
100%.
It'd be like, hey, Tom Brands, meet Tom Petty over here. We're going to do a quick pause in the show to talk about one of my favorite seasonings, and that is Captain B's. This is Captain B's Prime Red. I'm actually running out and I need to go get some more. But you can order them directly from their online store, captainbseasoning.com. You could also go, if you're in Bakersfield, check out the farmer's market. I go on Sundays to the marketplace and I go and get my seasonings. But it's a great, great local place in Bakersfield, and they got great stuff. My man Brian Harris would be cooking things up in the backyard, getting after it. Again, if you guys want to get your seasonings, please check out captainbseasoning.com. So, Coby, I just want to talk first, man. Like, congrats again on winning a state title. What's kind of been going on since the state tournament? It's been a couple weeks.
So far, a little rest off the body, so taking some practices off. I still practice a couple days a week, and everything. Still weight train and all that stuff, but focusing on recovery. I do a lot of ice baths and everything to make sure my body feels better. But now it's time to lock in more for freestyle now, since that's the next thing I'll be doing in Vegas. So I'll be doing the U20 or probably U20 Open over there. So just getting myself ready for that and transition to the freestyle stuff. I'm working on takedowns and turns and all that stuff now.
When you do recovery, how much of that stuff are you doing like during the week, like during the season?
I think it's almost like a consistent thing now. You have to take your recovery as serious as your training. You got to do your foam roll, you got to do your ice baths after practice. You got to make sure you get your at least 8, 9, whatever plus hours of sleep, if not more, on the weekends. And doing all that stuff. Sauna is good. Hot tub is good too. All that stuff. And doing physical therapy always for whatever they need. I had knee surgery before, so making sure you're doing that, or shoulders and all that stuff. So I feel like it's like you take as much importance as it is for training for when you're wrestling.
Yeah, was that something you'd say like you definitely started doing a lot more since, like you said, you've had some injuries and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think after having injuries and such, you don't want to get injured again. I had a double knee surgery before, and I don't want to hurt any more stuff in my knees again or my arms or whatever it is. So just trying to make sure to be injury free for the rest of my wrestling career, and also plus, I've been wrestling for a long time since elementary school and everything. So and I have how many more years? I have a college career and Olympic career I want to do afterwards. So taking care of the body is super important, since I've already put a lot of mileage on my body, all that stuff, training for however many years I've been training and doing how many tournaments I've been doing. So making sure to take care of it, since I still got how many more years left for wrestling. So just recovery, I feel like is super important now for a lot of athletes. I think that's one thing a lot of high school athletes in general do more better at now than back in the days. And I think that's why maybe high school athletes are, however well they're doing really good right now, beating college wrestlers already right now at high school age level. I think it's because they take care of their bodies and they worry about their recovery. They worry about their dieting a lot more than high school wrestlers back in the past did.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about the wave of those Iowa guys that all had like shoulder braces and knee injuries and things like that. And I think a lot of the younger guys have maybe learned from that generation a little bit. It's like, yeah, we need to start taking care of our bodies now instead of
Yeah.
waiting until we get into college.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about college a little bit, what was like your recruiting process like? Because I got to imagine you're probably getting looks from all over the country. How'd you kind of narrow it down to Iowa State?
So my recruiting process is very interesting. I first wasn't recruited by that many schools when I think it's June or July, something that whatever date comes in your end of your sophomore year. I didn't get that many schools to contact me. I only had a couple that a lot more academic schools at first, and everything. Probably because I just had knee surgery and I didn't really wrestle the summer that sophomore year. And then after ending up after a loss in my sophomore year for a state title, I took second in that year. And I think maybe that's the reason why not many schools contacted me. But I think throughout the junior year, after winning bigger tournaments like Dog B and Reno TSC, all that stuff like that, that's when more and more wrestling schools hit me up. More, other top 5 schools like Iowa State did, and even Arizona State did, OU did, a bunch of other schools did too. But I had to, think, there's always an academic side to me, of course, since I'm a person that loves to be in this classroom all the time and everything. So I had with the choices between, a lot of Ivy League schools like Brown and Princeton and Cornell and all that stuff. And, on the West Coast at Stanford and wrestling schools too. You had, like I mentioned before, Arizona State, Iowa State, and all that stuff too. But, I narrowed it down to just to whoever, sooner or later these coaches, say, you either got to commit this weekend, or if not, we're going to move on to the next guy. So when those things happen, it's like, okay, well, it's fine. I'm not in a rush. I want to commit at the end of my junior year or beginning of my senior year. So I wasn't in a rush for all that stuff. But when I decided to do Iowa State, it's just, I think it clicked more than the others. I think it had one of the best training situations that I could ask for. And then the coaching staff, they showed their dedication. Like, okay, I could see them elevate me to the next level, and college level and everything too. That's why I picked them over the other ones.
What was it like, I guess? And you got to spend some time out in Iowa. It's a little bit cold out there, huh?
Yeah, it is. It is colder. I've been there a couple of times for like the RTC training, all that stuff. But yeah, it is a lot different in California. That's one thing I was like, okay, well, the problem is there's not that many programs in California for wrestling. So a lot of California kids in general move out of state to wrestle in Division One, and everything, since they want to elevate to the next level, and there isn't that many programs in California that can do that for you. But yeah, it's a totally different weather change in Iowa to California. I always tell my California, my classmates and my teammates and everything. I was like, yeah, when I went out there, for whatever I did out there in Iowa, it's a lot colder. The landscape is totally different. You won't see mountains anymore. It's all flat land. It's all snowing in the wintertime and everything. It's like freezing and negative whatever temperature degrees. While over here, it's good old sunny 70-degree weather in California.
It's nice though, like once finally like wrestling season ends and like the winter ends and springtime comes and everything starts being
Oh
green and
yeah,
the birds are chirping, it's gonna be like this big renewal. It's gonna feel
oh
good.
yeah, yeah.
When you were training with their RTC, you're hanging out with Coach Dresser and Coach Metcalf, and what about maybe the relationship that you've been able to kind of build a little bit with those coaches, do you enjoy and that you appreciate?
I think the coaching staff of Iowa State, the one word to say it, they're pretty straightforward. I think they shoot you straight. They're pretty direct. They tell me, like we know you're this good, Coby. We're not here to to like check how good you are and everything. We know how good you are. Like he told Coach Dresser told me, come over to Iowa State to test drive our program. If you don't like it, then it is meant to be. If you like it, then we can talk about your opportunity to come to wrestle at Iowa State. I think that a lot of other coaches, talk the other way. It's different. I like that, it kind of reminds me of my dad and everything, being straightforward, not really like beating around the bush and talking about other stuff besides wrestling, but they're like straightforward. Like they know how good I can be and they know that what they can do to develop me and everything too. So between Coach Dresser, they're all, he's cool, our head coach, and the assistant coaches like St. John, Coach Metcalf, and then also the RTC coach, Coach Perry, is awesome too.
When you think about your relationships like that you've been building with coaches, like how appreciated is that trust and that honesty? Do you feel like kind of plays a factor in that relationship?
No, I think trust and honesty with the coaches is a big thing. I've developed a really strong relationship with Coach Kistler, Harlan Kistler. He is my coach. He's my coach, head coach at John W. North High School, and yeah, the relationship we have is awesome. And everything, we've done. He always drilled with me and trained with me since I went over to the high school. I even knew him before I even came to JW North High School. He's just helped me in so many different ways and everything. We hang out together. We've went to the beach. We've been to the arcade game lab together and everything too. So I think, having that trust and everything, and, that you create that bond and everything to really develop into something. And, having him as a great mentor. He was my teacher a couple years, 2 years as an English teacher too. So, I mean, we have a pretty good, strong bond as a coach and athlete,
And that's got to be fun because I feel like for this partnership to really work, it's like you guys got to be open and honest with each other. Like whether it's something like, hey, this is what I saw after one of your matches, or maybe you're telling them like, hey, you know what, I got to make this my adjustment, or hey, I don't really like, maybe what you're saying. Like I think that's
Yes,
super important.
exactly. Like there's some stuff we talk about and everything, and we make adjustments, more personally to me rather than the team. And same thing with the Iowa State staff too and everything. Coach Perry, he's like kind of like that person I've talked to about some stuff, and he makes a little adjustments, individual adjustments with me and everything, and like technical adjustments. And we're pretty close. Like, oh, I feel this, and then like, oh, that. Like maybe this doesn't work on me because I have shorter arms or something. I can't get to this shot and everything. And Coach Perry's like, yeah, I see that and everything. And we work on some other stuff. Now we're working on the straight single or snatch single or underhooks now, all that stuff. So.
Well, when you think back on your high school career, I mean, you're a four-time state finalist, two-time state champ. Are there things that like maybe about your career that you wish you would have done a little bit differently, or are there some things maybe that stick out to you like, man, I should have done this sooner because this is a really good thing.
I think that my whole high school career it's pretty neat to see, the development. I think, my development throughout from freshman year to senior year, I could see there's major development. I mean, physically, because one, I was a 195 pounder my freshman year. Now I'm a heavyweight now, but also just technical adjustments. I think I've watched my matches from back in the days a couple of weeks ago and everything else. Wow. Just a lot of technical adjustments I made and a lot of just becoming a better wrestler I did since freshman year to senior year. Like my attacks are better, my defense are better. Everything about me as a wrestler just got better since freshman year. And I hope I did better, because that's 4 years and down the line, you want to grow as a wrestler and everything. Things that could change. I wouldn't say there's nothing that could really change and everything. I think there's always just learning lessons like, oh, okay, that happened, everything. And now I know not to make that mistake again. I mean, you can't really change the past and everything, but I'd love to see all that stuff that were the ups and downs of the journey. Like, oh, okay, that's, I wrestled that match injured, okay, well, next time I got to figure out if I want to do that again and, what the scenario is, what's at stake, all that stuff.
I think that growth mindset that you have is really impressive. I think like what you said with recovery, that's something I wish more high school wrestlers would try to appreciate a little bit more. It's just like, hey, it's not a regret. It's not that I necessarily messed up. It's like this is a great opportunity to get better.
Exactly. I mean, I have teammates on my team that ask about recovery, all this stuff. They're all asking like, "Oh, Kobe, how many minutes of this or that do you do of like ice bath?" And I already had like two of my teammates already. I got them into the ice bath now, so now they're it took them a little bit. They were all like, "Oh, it's too cold and everything. I can't get in and everything." Now we got them in and everything. So I think uh, I think they need to prioritize recovery too. I know that they always like to train hard and everything, but sometimes they're like, "Oh, like my whatever." I mean, we had a couple guys injured this year on my team and everything, shoulder injuries, knee injuries, um, a couple other injuries too and everything. So there are about like 4 or 5 guys on our team. We're all banged up wearing braces going into the CIF tournament and everything. And, I think part of that is just, I told them, just make sure you always take care of your recovery, your stuff and everything. Make sure we have a trainer at the school. She can make ice baths. She can, do some massages or whatever other stuff you do. Shout out to our trainer, Kylie Murphy. She's awesome and everything. But just making sure to, take care of your body as if it's a car and everything, making sure to serve it really good gas instead of Chevron gas rather than just regular Shell gas, or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's really cool about what you just said is like now that you've shown, hey, like this is how a successful wrestler trains, it becomes very easy for Coach Custer to at JW North and be like, hey, like if you want to reach your goals, like you got to be a little bit more like Kobe.
Yeah.
Is that something that have you had somebody like that in your life where it's like, all right, this is like kind of what I need to do, like because this person kind of blazed the trail for you, maybe in a way.
For me, I have an older brother that also does wrestling too. So I think that he was a little role model for me too. Like, okay, got to do some stuff like that too. But I think a lot of it's more independence. Like, okay, you can. But also, I look up to other wrestlers back in the day when I was a kid. Of course, having Jordan Burroughs, seeing what he does, like all the stuff, the type of training he does. Like, wow, this dude pushes himself to the limits all the time during practice and everything. And it shows at tournaments. This dude is like doesn't get tired, super strong, explosive for the weight class and everything else too, like that. So, and the type of training you do, like it's, I realized that there's no secret to it. It's just how much hard work are you willing to put in, how disciplined are you to do stuff and everything. I had a talk with actually one of the coaches at Iowa State, Coach Carr. He's a coach at the RTC and everything, David's dad and everything. He was telling me how about, the quote is, hard work beats talent and all that stuff. But how about hard work is a talent? It's a talent to work hard and to be disciplined 24/7 out of the time and everything, not doing any distractions that distract you and, always training, always recovering, always having a metaphor to do to keep getting better and all that stuff. That's already a talent to do that because shoot you not many wrestlers or athletes are doing that 27.
That might be
Do that.
like
That's a talent to do that enough right there.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out just for a second, but I really appreciate what you just said. Like that's gold. It's like understanding that
Yeah.
maybe you're not talented in a lot of ways that people think, but like if you're a hard worker,
Yeah.
like you're gonna figure it out after a given amount of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like kind of watching different guys that coaches, and I'll try to pull from different sports. And I was listening to this hockey coach who's pretty accomplished, but he talked about how like he's not super great in any one area, but he's super organized. So like he uses that as like basically his talent. He's like I can over prepare and I can be ready to go, and I can help make sure my team is ready to be where they need to be.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that and everything. I think even like just using what you have as a talent and everything, because not everyone's talented athletically and everything else too. But just you can work hard and everything and get athletically and better athletically. So that's already a talent to do that rather than, like, oh, okay, sorry, I couldn't, like for me, example, like I remember a kid growing up, it took me a minute, it took a long time for me to, develop and learn how to do a single leg right or do, even a cartwheel. It took a minute for me to do that. But through practice and hard work and everything, I was able to do it. But it just things don't come naturally. But at the same time, as long as you do it with repetition, you'll get it done.
Yeah, no, I think that's funny about the cartwheel. Was that like how did you celebrate after a cartwheel? Did you flex on somebody? Did you pull up a CBU t-shirt? Like what'd you do?
No, I don't think I did that when I was 9 or 10 years old. But I think I was just happy. I was smiling that day. I was like, oh, or my dad, finally got it down and everything. But it took a minute though and everything. But no, I haven't done the cute CBU. That is not the movement yet, not just yet. So
Obviously you dominated the state tournament. It was pretty cool to see in the finals though to kind of for you to use that platform and be able to support CBU wrestling. Was that planned ahead of time? Like, did you already have that shirt, or was it kind of like, all right, hey, at the tournament, hey, we happen to have this shirt. Like, what do you think about doing it?
so what behind that CBU wrestling shirt? So it was I think probably that same day or even the day before that. Coach Kiss was asking me, "Hey, would you?" My brother's asking me, Nolan's the one that's doing all this QCB wrestling movie. He's like, "Would you happen to want to hold the QCB wrestling shirt? After you win a state title this year and everything?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll think about it and everything. Sure, why not? So he gives it to his dad, Harlan Kisser Senior, when he drives up to state and everything. So I grabbed I didn't ever knew what the shirt looked like. I didn't know what the shirt looked like until the very end part. And that's kind of what, I was like, I have to talk to Nolan later. I was like, dang it, the font size is too small, Nolan. Come on. I didn't even notice that until later on. But, I ended up, went to Coach Kistler after the match and everything. So should I do it right now? And he's like, oh, let's shake everyone's coach's hands first. I went over there and I grabbed the shirt after and, I raised it up and everything. And my fault on that too. I kind of rolled it up a little bit. I didn't realize the font was so small and everything. And then couldn't see it. But I think, it got the word out. I think people were wondering, like, what's the shirt saying? And people started spreading, it's Keep CB Wrestling since that's a big thing going on right now. So I think that's some stuff out and being posted on Flow Wrestling and getting however many thousands of views. I think it was able to share the message that, oh, we're trying to keep CB Wrestling, and everything. And for me, the reason why I'm promoting it, a lot of people, I've seen some people have asked me, like, oh, why are you promoting Keep CB Wrestling? And are you even going to the college or whatever, such and such? For me, it's my coaches are both CB alumni, Harlan Kistler Jr. and John Halajan, and I've also wrestled so many CB alumni over the years. I wrestled Peter Cunningham, Cyril, Brady Bersano, Zach Merrill, Zach Shearer, Chris Island, numerous other ones and everything. And I wrestled so many CB alumni. I've developed and got better at wrestling because of wrestling these CB alumni. I've also trained at the West Coast RTC before too. So, just seeing another wrestling program get shut down that's in the area and everything, you don't want to see that at all. So I, of course, want to promote it and everything, trying to promote the idea of keeping it. I know this, the university administration, from what I'm seeing and everything, are pretty horrible and, not trying to keep it at all and everything. They want to hush the public out right now, which is insane. But I'm just doing my part, trying to keep the movement going.
Yeah, and I think that's all we really can do is each of us can kind of have a part to play in this. And I think it's awesome that you're able to use your platform for something that you care about. And I think
Yeah.
that's especially in this day and age with social media, it's like a lot of different athletes are able to do that, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
When you look ahead to these next few weeks, I know you're talking about you took a little bit of time off just to focus on your recovery and then kind of mix in some practices. Well, at what point you're going to be like, all right, now it's time to start kind of gearing up and really hitting freestyle hard and getting ready for some of these bigger competitions?
I think probably this coming weekend or this coming week actually. So I'll start, training harder and all that stuff. Get back to some hard wrestling that goes and drills and stuff and everything. Working on making sure to get my conditioning up. Always doing some little air dive workouts and all the other stuff and everything. So and also just work on. I think a lot of it's similar to focus out too. I think conditioning is a little bit different because it's 2 3 minute periods rather than 3 2 minute periods, but there's a 30-second break in between. So just working on making sure that's always going forward in the match and everything. But and also it's a lot neutral too, not really much top bottom and freestyle too. So making sure to work on that. But I think a lot of the drills are similar, just working on the same takedowns and everything. There's a little couple things different, on the edge of the line and everything, getting your push outs and everything, making sure to get better in that stuff I need to do. And also some parterre stuff, making sure my gut wrenches and laces are good.
If you had like a preference, like do you like freestyle more or do you like folk style? I'm not sure if that's something that you maybe get asked a lot, but I do feel like that's kind of a common thing. Somebody has a preference.
I like both. I like folk style and like freestyle. I think I like freestyle a little more favorable, maybe because you do folk style more out of a year. You do folk style probably like six or about I don't know 8 9 months out of the year, and then you do the freestyle only in the summertime mostly. So I think freestyle's kind of like that change of sports. Like, oh, okay, kind of getting sick of folk style. Let's do freestyle now. I think that's more fun. Also, my style I think kind of relates a little more to freestyle too because I always I pressure forward. I'm one of those guys that goes forward the whole match and everything. That's my style of wrestling. So I think that it favors me more. And also, I gotta like it a lot too because the fact that that's an Olympic style. You can't do folk style in the Olympics. That's the pinnacle of wrestling. So you gotta do either freestyle or Greco. But yeah, you never go full Greco. So we gotta go freestyle.
Well, I think your style too translates really well into collegiate wrestling. I think sometimes in high school, some of the ways that they call the out of bounds and like the action calls and stuff like that, it's a little wonky. But college, they've been pretty consistent with, hey, if you're backing out or almost
Yeah.
not quite a push out, but if somebody's avoiding wrestling because the other person's creating a lot of pressure, they're going to make that stall call.
Yeah, I agree. I know high school wrestling is very interesting since they don't give stall calls for nothing over in high school wrestling. But yeah, in the college wrestling, I've seen the matches and everything. They did a pretty good job on that. Making it like if you walk if you go out of bounds and you have like no intention of trying to circle in, that's immediate stall call, which I like.
When you think about trying to balance your freestyle training with also like getting ready for collegiate wrestling, is there like a difference, or is it something like no, a lot of these skills and things I'm working on are going to transition really well to collegiate too?
I think a lot of the skills, I think the will transition well. I think the same neutral stuff, the hand fighting, a lot of people always talk about collegiate wrestling being filled with hand fighting, and everything. And, they say college wrestlers can hand fight, high school wrestlers can. I think I got my hand fighting up to a pretty good bar and everything. So just keep on working on that stuff and everything. And I think those freestyle stuff, training stuff, and making sure holding center and going forward and, controlling your tie and getting some shots and everything. I think that goes along with collegiate. I think just making sure, and before the college season comes around, making sure, just good on top, making sure I can ride and getting a riding time point and all that good stuff. And on the bottom, always making sure you can get out of the bottom.
Yeah, especially I think like what you said, like those 30-second rideouts. It's like a lot of times those heavyweights will sometimes go into overtime matches, and it's like, hey, you got to be able to ride somebody out 30, or you got to be able to get out quick.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's for sure. I'll have to make sure to work on that after the freestyle season before the college season.
Do you have a date when you're planning on moving out to Iowa State to Ames?
No, not exactly. I probably after graduation. I still have to graduate in May or so. So probably sometime after May and everything, I'll move out to Ames.
Are you
So
guys are you and your family, are you guys going to go out to nationals next weekend?
I don't know. That's a good question. I was talking to my dad about going to NCAA's and everything. So we're not for sure yet and everything, but we were thinking about it. And I think it'd be something cool to watch before I get to compete in it. Since we've never actually been to the national tournament in college NCAA's. We watched it on TV multiple times, and everything. But I heard it's what is it, the most viewed event, how many spectators are in that arena for college wrestling, even more than freaking Olympic wrestling. And Olympics is televised worldwide, which is awesome. But for when it comes to like how many fans are in an arena, NCAA tournament might be one of the largest ones.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like the Super Bowl for wrestling almost. It's like yeah, you have the Olympics and Worlds, but there's just something special about
Yeah,
the NCAA
exactly.
tournament. I feel like
Yeah,
man, I would struggle
yeah.
being a
March
fan in the
Madness.
arena because there's just so many dang matches going on at the same time. But like on TV, it's like I can pause it and I can rewind it and I can make sure I get all those matches.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than your brother, are
I
there
actually
any other
had a
guys that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's funny you talk about that since I had a AP biology teacher that came around in my master's tournament this season and everything, and he kind of said the same thing as you did. He's like, "This is the first time I've watched a wrestling tournament." So I've seen wrestling duels before where you could, watch, one match at a time. But he's like, there's so many matches going on right now in this tournament. I was like, yeah, there's, how many weight classes and how many championship constellations going on at the same time. He's like, yeah, I don't even know which match to watch. He said and everything, and I see, every couple of, if I in 10 minutes or so, I saw like two concussions happen. I'm like, yep, that's wrestling for you. There's a lot of injuries that happen in the matches. So.
No, I think it's I think the high school element, I think it's hard sometimes to be a spectator. Like if you're a parent sitting up in bleachers all day, it's pretty tough. But I feel like when you get to the college tournaments, it's like a little bit more fun just because the level of wrestling is a little bit higher. And normally you're going to more
Yeah,
duels than you are tournaments.
yeah, I agree.
Um, so I do want to ask you just like as you kind of look at the NCAA field right now and possibly who's coming back next year, are you looking at guys like, man, this is somebody I'd like to wrestle, or this is somebody I'd like to wrestle, or man, maybe just even at Iowa State, like you got two really tough guys. I'm assuming Younger is probably going to stick around next year at the RTC, but what are you thinking about in terms of like the field and who you might be wrestling next year?
I really don't have a specific person in mind. I mean, you got, Younger, of course, and that's why I love Iowa State because Younger is still going to be around and train with everything, and he's the number one guy right now. And rooting for him, he should be able to win the national tournament that's coming or next weekend. But the next level, other guys and everything that returns, there's a lot of guys that graduate. A lot, but I think of around like three or four of the top eight guys or something. They're all graduating. But the rest of the guys that are sticking around, yeah, I'd like to wrestle a lot of those guys and everything. I think just working on some skills and training I do and everything. And I think I'd be the upcoming freshman that comes in and um, tries to top the field and everything. That's my goal and everything. So, but just I think training with Younger will help me and everything. And training Iowa State, all that stuff. The type of training they do, the next call a collegiate level and every type of training. And yeah, I can't wait to wrestle the next guys in the field and even the high school kids and my high school class and everything that comes on the field too. I think it'll be interesting for a heavyweight for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think about your matchup with Trayshawn Ross. I mean, that was a really exciting matchup, and I've talked to Kistler a little bit. I know you're really excited to hopefully be able to have a chance to compete against him soon.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's always interesting. I always love to compete and everything, and looking forward to having another match with him whenever tournament comes around for that. So just always training for that for whatever and not just against Ross or against other whatever wrestlers and everything too. Just trying to always find the best version of myself and everything, and um, trying to of course do the best I can. While always been trying to go. What's the goal? Make a world team, win a national title, and everything, and who knows? All these things I've seen this last couple of weekends, like, oh, there's so many upsets of wrestlers and everything. You thought this guy was good. Now he just got upset at whatever Big Ten conference or whatever it is. So just always making sure your wrestling style fits for against all wrestlers. Your best version of yourself can beat all the types of wrestlers rather than, oh, okay, his style matches well with that style, but his style doesn't match well with that style. You don't want that.
No, I agree. Kobe, I know you got places to be, man, so I really appreciate you coming on the show. Before we stop recording, you got anything else?
Nothing much and everything. I just think I want to thank you for having me on the show and everything. I think I've seen a lot of your stuff and everything, and you're doing a great job promoting wrestling and everything of all that stuff. I think it's always great to see growth in wrestling and everything. I do want to get talk about the RAF recently. I want to say though is that whoever's running RAF is doing a great job promoting wrestling. I think because I have kids from school and everything talking about, oh yeah, I've seen that Armand versus that Giorgio, whatever, the take me down, get $1,000 or whatever match and everything. It is just interesting to see, wrestling from guys like influencers like them and everything. I think it gets the the audience of just the public audience, just not even just wrestling, but just people to see that like, oh wow, that looked pretty entertaining to watch and everything. So I think that it's cool to see wrestling grow in that way because, if you don't have Olympic wrestling and everything, what after that, you're kind of just after college wrestling, you're kind of done and everything, you either get a coaching career or that's it. But now that RAF's around, it is pretty interesting to see that a lot of guys can, pursue somewhat of a career after collegiate career.
Is that something that you think you'd be interested in doing, like an RIF or, I know you talked about freestyle aspirations after college, but like if they ask you right now, like, hey, Kobe, like we want you to be on this next card, would you be in?
That'd be cool. I think I'd like to be on the RF stuff, and I do a couple of those. For me, after college and everything, I have try to make a international cycle for a bit, but also I plan to go to medical school later down the line too. So I won't be one of those guys that stick around the sport for super super duper long. So I'll just be doing a cycle or two, and then go straight to medical school after too. So of course, wrestling's not my full. I'm not probably unless something happens. I know Dresser would be super happy to hear me become a coach or something. But I do have academic aspirations too, since I have a 4.4 GPA and take all these AP Bio and math classes. So I want to use this brain of mine, to help others.
That's the biggest flex of all, man.
Yeah,
Kobe, I appreciate you, man. It was an absolute pleasure getting a chance to talk to you, and I look forward to catching up with you down the line.
thank you, Brian, for having me on.
Talk about other stuff. I mean, if we look at what's happening with the Pac-12s, what do you guys think about some of the additions that are coming over from Big 12?
Saving California wrestling.
Yeah.
Love it.
And somebody said that, and it's like
It's the
we
truth.
still only have we have two Division I programs that are in Pac-12, so it doesn't really change that much.
It keeps the Pac-12 from being dissolved. And I
Yes.
think the Pac-12 dissolving would very much hurt California wrestling. It would just send us east and then it would eventually crumble. So I think it's a good move, and I was so surprised to see this yesterday, but I think it's awesome.
And whether you believe that or not, CBU being in the Big 12s was a little bit challenging for them, cost effective wise. So keeping the Pac-12 together, I don't think Oregon State's going to dissolve. Stanford's not going to go anywhere, Poly, but you're keeping California colleges alive. Not that Poly would fold or Stanford. Well, I mean, they tried to fold a couple years ago, but with CBU in the Big 12, that might have been a little bit more challenging. If they were in the Pac-12, who knows? Now, the lawsuits are the lawsuits, and they're gunning, but it could have gone the other direction. CBU could have been saved if they were in the Pac-12.
I agree.
Financially.
And still, even with these four additions, I mean, Brian, Orrin, and I can speak from experience wrestling in the Pac-12. We didn't have to travel too far. Our farthest travel was Boise State, maybe,
Yeah.
Arizona State, but then Stanford, Oregon State, and obviously we'd always do a Cal Baptist when they were Division II, and Cal Poly, which was a hop, skip, and a jump. It wasn't financially taxing for even a program of our level that was basically self-funded. And
Mhm.
now these programs got to travel to Air Force, which I believe is in Colorado,
Colorado Springs.
and then as well as Northern Colorado, North Dakota State, and South Dakota State, and Little Rock, which is in Arkansas. So,
And Northern Illinois, don't forget them too, NIU.
and Northern Illinois. Yeah. So, it is financially more difficult now.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on the raising prices of gas. But I just there could have been closer teams that were put into the big or to the Pac-12. But it is what it is, and I think it's still a step in the right direction.
100%.
Well, who's the miss?
I mean,
Who do you
Arizona
mean?
State is right across
They're
the
in
street.
they're in the Big 12, dude. Like,
Utah
here's
Valley.
the thing. It's like you want to join. You want to be in a spot where you're going to be able to get the most allocations. You're going to get the most guys in the national tournament. But then also too, if you're in a big market like Big 12, there's a chance you guys could host and bring in revenue that way. You're going to get more TV time and more rights. Like if you're in a more competitive conference and you're a competitive team, it makes more sense. If you're a less competitive team, it does not make sense to be in a big conference.
No, absolutely. I mean, if I'm Zeke or Chris Ayers, I'm happy being in the ACC or the Big 12. Trust me, I understand that. but I'm not those individuals. And I'm looking at it from a perspective of a Luke Smith, who's the head coach at a self-funded program in California. Probably a little frustrating for him when he's got to fly to Arkansas for a dual meet, you know?
I wonder how they're going to structure the dual schedule now. Is this something that they're going to line up? And because normally it's like what you have, 4 or 5 conference duels, and it's like, are we dueling everybody now? Does that mean we're going to be traveling, or we're going to try and knock some of these schools out in a row? Like, I mean, dude, we did
Yeah.
one year. We were talking about flying. You were talking about flying around the country, dude. We drove down to LA, and I thought we were getting on a flight. No, we were driving down to LA and then east to Tempe. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second. If we're driving to Tempe, that means we're driving back. And then we were going to double it up and fly to Oregon. So we literally drove down, drove across to Tempe, drove back, got
Yeah.
onto a plane in LAX, drove to Corvallis to wrestle Oregon State, then drove back to LAX, and then drove back up to Bakersfield. Dude, I got cellulitis on my rear, and that was not a good time. It's all that sitting. That was like a 10-hour plus drive to Tempe and back. And then not to mention being on the plane.
Not to mention Van Wars.
Not to mention Van
Don't
Wars.
mention those.
Oh man.
We don't talk about those.
Yeah, we don't.
Fir- First rule of Cal State Bakersfield, don't
Yeah.
talk about Cal State Bakersfield.
Since Save Sport existed, I don't think we've been allowed to speak on those, to be honest. But I remember, I think the year after I graduated, Bakersfield did a route where it was like Boise, Arizona, Cal Poly, some sort of circuit like that. But honestly, that's what like Little Rock, North Dakota, South Dakota, they'll kind of be forced to do. Maybe a little California trip, California, Oregon trip. Um,
But
or,
maybe not.
well, West Coast teams coming out, North Dakota, South Dakota, they can kind of knock out both of those like that. But
Maybe they hold a couple tri-duels or,
yeah,
something along those lines and get a little creative. Um, it'd be interesting to have South Dakota, North Dakota, throw in there. I mean, I guess Illinois is pretty close, but have a tri-duel. However, they can change that funding.
Mhm.
It's really going to affect schools like Bakersfield, but on travel costs. But hey, good for them.
I'm just
And
excited
then
for the opportunity that maybe we can actually host a conference in Bakersfield.
that
Conference
would be
uh
great.
conference meet. Though there's a good
Um,
chance we're gonna have to miss it because there's a dang tournament in Fresno the same weekend.
but don't
Yeah.
they not let Bakersfield host because they were affiliate?
No,
They
they
did.
changed that. Like
Oh,
Cal Poly was the first school in like 20 something years to maybe my math's off to actually host Pac-12s, and that's why
awesome.
Cerritos was like very much pushing like we need to get like a lot of people there to show that wrestling is a very viable thing and something that's
Yeah.
popular and that people are going to show up and engage with because this is all in the wake of what happened with CPU. It's
Hmm.
like, hey, this is a relevant thing in California. Look at all the people that are coming. And I think if we can actually host another conference tournament, either again at Cal Poly or at CUCB, I think it's going to draw a lot of numbers because you're not just getting 3 other schools there. You're actually going to get a boatload,
Hmm.
with the Dakotas, Northern Colorado, Air Force, and NIU there as well now. So,
Well, is it a situation that they hosted at the college, or would they be able to move it up to, a big arena?
have you been to the Ricardo Center is pretty big.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
They hosted
Well,
Roadrunner Open there.
yeah, but the Roadrunner Open wouldn't necessarily have the same amount of spectators, so you'd have to open up that other side of the bleachers, correct?
Yeah, it's
For a
big.
conference.
It's big, dude. It's a big spot. I mean,
But
when
what are
we
they running? 4 mats? Or are they running 5 mats?
6 or 7 mats.
So you can't do that with both sides of the bleachers out.
No, you have. I mean, think
I'd
about it like
say
this. Like
I'd say
when we were at,
Pac-12's on four mats with 8 teams would be fine.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
four mats, both bleachers out. I think
Perfect.
it'd fit
Yeah.
perfectly.
I mean, when we hosted Penn State, we just had obviously the one mat, but
Yeah.
you could probably put 2 or 3 mats in the middle and then pull out those seats if you needed to, or do it in 2 sessions, or three, or split it over 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Which that
If,
would be
if
kind of extra,
anything,
but you could do it.
if anything, you're probably gonna run out of space for like if you're, like if you watch the Stilly Boys videos, like they're hanging out back in like locker rooms and stuff like that. That's probably more of where you're gonna run out of room for teams to have like their own little either conference room or locker room space. I mean, I'm sure they'd find a way to make it work. But
Yeah.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome to see.
They have locker space. If you go, I don't know if you remember Sean Orm, but the swim locker rooms, like we're like the only sport that had their own locker room and shower. But like
Mm.
all the other sports, well, actually basketball would have their own spot. But all the other sports like volleyball and swimming and golf and shout out men's golf, they got canceled. But they have like basically their own locker room little section. So they could for sure make it work if
Yeah.
they wanted to host it at
Yeah,
CCB.
well, that'd be great. I'd love to see it. And the rumor of Tarleton potentially coming over from Texas. I love that. That'd be
I love it
sweet.
too.
That would be
Yeah,
sweet.
well, Grant Leith was like one of our first guests on the show.
Yeah, I think he was probably the first. I mean, like at least the first college All-American that was on the show.
Don't tell Tori that. Wasn't Tori your first guest, Brian?
Tori was technically the first guest ever, but we didn't release that episode. Homeboy brought I did it in person, and I did it at my dining room table, and he brought a case of beer, and I was like, dude, okay, like I was like, I should
Family
have
show.
clarified
Family
what the
show.
show was, but I ended up not airing that thing. It was bad.
That's in the vault,
That's in
the
the
Simple
vault.
Man vault.
Not
Nice.
too
No,
many
but
people
I
know
do.
this, but I actually did a podcast with my friend Liz McCormick, who I met. She was a trainer at J-Rob. And then Noah Blakely. We did a podcast. And I'm not going to say the name of it because I think the website's still up and you guys don't say it either, but if you know it. But that was something that we did a couple episodes on. I'm like, this is not going to work. But yeah, I mean,
You had
it's
to
just
keep it a little bit more simple, huh?
well, I was trying. I think I was trying to be a little bit like Barstool Sports and talking about like modern, like pop culture stuff, and that I don't really care about that kind of stuff.
We care about wrestling.
Yeah.
I care about wrestling.
Yeah. And I do want to say you give a little shout out, Jay Robinson. Just RIP to a true legend. Um, yeah. Meant a lot to the sport, meant a lot to a lot of us that went to his camps and stuff like that too. But I think just a great figure in the sport. I hate what happened to him at Minnesota, but man, what a legend. What an absolute legend.
It was an honor to meet him, hang out with him for an hour or so. You know, I've told the story before, but we were in Iowa. It was snowing. No one could go anywhere. The roads were closed, and there was a Domino's pizza, and we all went to go get pizza. And there's J. Rob sitting in the corner.
Hmm.
So we sat down waiting for all our pizzas to be ordered, and he was just such a gracious guy. And you know, he's done so much for the sport that we all love, and a really really nice little write up on Simple Man's website.
Mm.
Al pulled that off, or was that Pablo? I don't remember.
Remembering Jay,
Yeah.
that was me.
Nah, look at you, even
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
perfect.
Brian, you were a camp counselor for him for years,
Yeah.
right?
Just the one summer, but I did all four camps, and it's kind of weird when I first like. I mean, I don't fanboy too often, but I fanboyed pretty hard when I saw Jay, and I also didn't want to mess up. Like that was like the whole thing. Like, don't mess up, don't get yelled at. Jake Kettler was talking about how he was like the director of wrestling for the camp. And he was telling me the story about how he messed up once and Jay chewed him out in front of the whole camp and like made him cry. Which, if you think about who Kettler is, like, he's the head coach for George Mason at one point. He's an assistant at Minot State. Like, he's been around. To see a grown man cry it's not, the fact that Jay had that power. So my whole thing was just don't mess up. But once I kind of like interacted with a couple times, like I tried to make a purpose of like going and sitting and talking with them at lunch. But dude, he had this like way of like, I put the story in the article, but like, he just had a way of interacting with people that had such an impact on him. And for him, he probably doesn't even remember us. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't remember probably most of the people that he had the impact on. But
Mhm.
for me, it was such a core memory. Like I think I told you guys this story before.
When your name's
Um,
on the shorts.
well, that I won't say that. I won't say that one. But I remember Michael Odomo, who had wrestled at North Dakota State. I didn't actually really know him that well, but we had mutual friends. Like Lorenzo De La Riva had transferred there from CSUB and went to North Dakota State. So I was kind of just talking to him, and I'm like, hey, he was in town for a couple of days just to pass him through to kind of say what's up at the camps. And I'm like, hey, do you want to go out and get some food and get a beer? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we got all dressed up after the last session. Like I got my nice shirt on and, I got my watch and I got my nice pants and we meet downstairs and we're both like, we just shower. We look like cleaned up. And I see Jay, he always has his door open. I'm like, hey, Jay, you want to go get a drink with us? And Jay was like, what? Like, where are you guys going? And I'm like, we're going to this place called Bros. Like, do you want to come with us? And he's like, yeah, like I'll meet up with you guys. So yeah, Odom and I we're going and we're chilling and we're eating, and we're having a beer and we're sitting at the table and Jay walks in. And he's wearing the same stuff that he wore all day at camp, like his t-shirt and his shorts and his hat. And it's like, dude, what the heck? Like he didn't clean up. He didn't clean up anything. He just, sat down and hung out with us. And just for things like that, I mean, when you're a legend in the sport and somebody that I don't think he was necessarily aware that he was a legend. I think he was just somebody that really cared about relationships and cared about helping people. And I think that's something as a coach, like that's what, I want to do. I want to be able to help people. So, no, really cool guy. And I'm sure all of us probably have a similar Jay story to some kind of degree. Like Brian, you got that story when in Iowa. Orrin, you did the camps, right? How many camps did you do?
I just did the one, but it was the one summer I did the 2 week Oklahoma State intensive and then the 2 week J Rob intensive. Got a little John Smith, got a little J Rob.
There you
But
go.
what I really loved about J Rob is I mean back in that day he was doing the visualization, like the manifestation type stuff. And that was the stuff that people came back from J Rob and told me about. And then I did that when I went to J Rob, and it's just Coach Jake Rollins here at Slam does that too, right at the end of the season. It's just something I think I think he was so far ahead of his time with what he did in the wrestling community, and that visualization thing alone, I think was so big and so monumental. But just, I mean, everyone mimics him, says the same things that he says, and during the visualization, there's always like a relax, John,
Relax.
yeah. And it's just, I mean, he's an absolute legend in the sport, and it's so sad, Bobby Douglas and Jay Robinson within a few weeks of each other, but true legends of the sport.
There's a biography that's coming out about J Rob. The author actually was an assistant coach at the high school my brother wrestled for in Illinois. So I've reached out to the guy, and I think once the book is getting closer to being released, I think we're going to get him on the show. But he's been talking to the guy for the last year. Like he's been
Wow.
talking to Jay on the phone. So it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of sad, but I think just kind of him getting up there in age and maybe having some health problems. I think everybody, I mean, at least me, like I kind of knew it's like, at some point it's going to happen. But I think on the other hand, it's like all the people that he's connected kind of are able to kind of reconnect and, remember him in a way that I think is pretty cool.
Mhm.
I never got the opportunity to go and do one of his camps. It was always one that I really wanted to, but I was mostly just getting sent off to Chertow wrestling camps every summer. But I wish I had, but I have a distinct memory of, I was a late bloomer in the sport and didn't really fall in love with it until my sophomore year of high school. And I was really big into just watching anything I could on the internet at that time that was wrestling related. I mean, when I could go and watch a bracket of like, Cliff Keen Invitational, I'd watch every single match. I was crazy like that. And it would be like a 3-year-old tournament that I would go through and watch. And I distinctly remember on YouTube, like the 2012, 13, and 14, like Minnesota hype videos that they would put out in the preseason. And that I still remember the songs. I still have those songs on our wrestling
That's
playlist to this
fun.
day. And anytime I hear those songs, that's who I think of
Is
is
one
Jay.
of them Florence and the Machine, Dog
Yes,
Days
it
Are Over?
is.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was just
it
gonna,
is.
I'm looking them up right now.
Yeah.
I lived
But
on
it's
those
just
videos.
iconic, iconic. And yeah, and that's something I think that the current generation is missing, by the way. Not to switch topics, but I tell my those stories to my kids and they don't give a dang. Like they just it's not
Mhm.
something that they think is cool.
If
And
it's
I'm
not
like,
ni if it's not 90 seconds or 60 seconds on a TikTok or something, they're just not interested.
yeah. Yeah, but those were like 15, 20-minute videos and I would put it on rerun and watch
Yeah,
it over and over. And it's like, the
Florence and the Machine.
yeah, it was like the Dardanius brothers. They were doing like plate
yeah.
workouts and then they were running with the plate. And I was just like, I would just watch it and then I would try and go replicate it. Obviously, not to that level, but That was just iconic, and I just was always a huge J-Rob
I
fan.
wonder if Ryan Lear did the editing for that because he did the editing for the camp, like he would do the camp videos and stuff like that. I wonder
I
if it was him that did that.
I remember there was a YouTube channel with Greco in the name who used to do a lot of the Minnesota high school videos, and I'm wondering if he was doing the college ones too. Because he put a couple high school tournament videos back in like 2011, 2012 with like Destin McCauley and stuff. And I
Sean's
used to
on it
live
right now.
I
He's
used to
on it.
live on those videos. And that's why Sean bringing that up. I remember I used to go through high school. I told my wife this the other day, high school wrestling pages. And one that came up that's actually very something came up recently about it was Great Bridge, Virginia. And
Hmm.
they just had a guy, Jordan Frischkorn, pass away who
They
wrestled at
did.
Oklahoma State. But to me, that was a name that was, I don't know why it was a household name for me, but I remember that Great Bridge team was so good.
He was on the
My high school,
poster.
huh?
He was on the poster.
Yeah, and so that Great Bridge team, just those guys are so good, and I followed them. But I remember seeing him; he had passed away the other day, and I wanted to bring that up too. But I lived on those sites. I remember Clovis had a good site. Blair, I was always on Blair's site looking at things. But today's kids don't have that. That's for sure.
My buddies, he used to live here in California. He's now out there. His son goes to Great Bridge and he wrestles, but well, only started in high school, didn't start it early. But yeah, we were talking just the other day about how Fishcorn was it's a huge impact. But all that goes back to those hype videos with J Rob and Minnesota did it right back then, man. We talked about it with Adam, but I'll make sure I have the right year this time so I don't get crushed. But yeah, in '01 and '07, those are some fun years to watch it go down with Minnesota with J. Rob at the helm.
I always wonder too, like I remember asking him about, what kind of happened with him being let go, which is maybe kind of a gutsy question to ask somebody, but I think his thing was like the power of a second chance. And it's like the admin kind of wanted Jay to basically tell all like everything that happened. And he's like, I'm not doing that. Like I handled it. The kids are going to be fine. Um, like just let me handle it. And admin was like,
Mhm.
no. And they forced him out. But thinking about some of the kids that may or may not have been involved in that, like they did get a second chance. And I don't necessarily where they are right now, but I know some of those guys that stayed on the program that were involved with it to some degree, like they ended up having a lot of success. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I think a lot of people are going to remember Jay for the impact that he's had and the relationships that he's built. And it sucks that maybe his coaching career kind of had to end like that, but I mean, Minnesota, their alumni network and their prestige and their, ability, I think, to represent the state of Minnesota, I think is going to continue to live on. And that's in large part because of Jay.
I definitely think the way he handled that situation was exactly how his coaches would have handled that situation if he was the
100%.
athlete. And I don't knock him for that. I think, you know, I'm not going to say he handled it wrong, but just in the current stage of life that we are in, the current, economics of it all, that's just not going to fly, unfortunately. But Brian said it best. He left a huge legacy, and um, just thinking back to last year, I was coaching out at national duels for the 14U schoolboy division. Minnesota is tough. They're super tough. I mean, we went toe to toe with them in both freestyle and Greco. I think we wrestled them 3 times, I think, while we were out there. And they're gonna be producing some hammers. They're coming up. I think they had a couple years of having a guy here and a guy there, but I think the consistency is coming back for them. They're gonna be a real tough state in a couple years.
Well, he's the main reason why NCAA's wanted to go up to Minnesota and have it at this huge stadium. And then COVID hits. And just unfortunate that he won't be able to be around to see
Yeah.
that make it. We're 2 years away from that. What's it? St. Louis next year and then
St.
up to
Louis next
Minnesota.
year.
Yeah.
So to have it in a huge football stadium, that is just a byproduct of what he put together all those years and created. I remember the California pipeline coming, whether it was Holiday or who else went up there? Who was the other Calvary kid? Calavita,
Andrew
um,
Sparks.
Sparks,
Sparks
all
recently, yeah.
those guys,
Brian had to
whether
throw that in there for sure after drafting him.
but Rivera, all those guys, he made a big impact across the entire United States and he grew our sport. I saw the one quote that was talking about him leaving. His biggest mistake was leaving Iowa, and they were like, Gable's like, "What are you talking about, man? Look what you've done for the rest of the world. Growing programs, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Unless you're CBU, and then you decide to not grow a program.
And the first coach ever to get 10 All-Americans.
Huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Well,
There's only
fellas,
two.
do you guys have anything else before we cut it?
Mitchell won the Hodge.
That's
Surprise.
right. By a
Smoked it.
landslide.
Yeah, he deserved it. By
He
far the
did.
most dominant.
He
And
did.
so I think that was well deserved. Barr obviously had like similar criteria, but when you look at strength of competition, and then Mitchell teching Caliendo in the finals, just nice little cherry on top. Such an
Yeah.
impressive season.
Yeah.
I hope he can come out to Cali for Fullerton Wrestling Camp. So that's a huge push. I'm sure the boys will talk about it. That pod dropped yesterday, but hopefully he can come out here to Cali and show his stuff because he's just wicked, wicked cool.
I'm just thinking about taking him to the bar that night and have him do the karaoke.
Yeah.
That's honestly like
down.
he's probably not a drinker. He doesn't do any of that stuff. That's fine. It's like, hey, there's karaoke tonight. How epic would that be if we got him to do karaoke while the camp is going on?
Done deal.
Done
Yeah,
deal.
we could pull that off.
Just
Yeah.
bring a speaker to the camp with a
Exactly.
microphone.
Maybe he can talk with Nolf and Vincenzo, because they came out a couple years ago and spent a couple extra days, and so we'll treat him right and bring him out, have some karaoke. Golden, golden.
Well, Brian, if you had to do karaoke, let's say, we're doing a karaoke competition and
Not happening.
the four of us plus Mitchell are in it, and it's like, hey, Mitchell's going to do it, but you have to do it too. What would be your karaoke song?
Good pull. Maybe Lincoln Park in the end, maybe,
Yeah.
something that we could get the pipes going. But yeah, not a karaoke guy by any means. I can't even sing in the shower, but do anything in the shower. Uh, yeah, let's go Lincoln Park. Maybe we'll put him on some Lincoln Park, and I'm game.
What
We'll
about
rock.
you, Warren?
We'll rock
Oh,
Fullerton
easy.
for sure.
Easy. First song, usually Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way.
That was
I
my
Want It That
pick.
Way. Number two is Chicken Fried. Zach
That's a
Brown
good one,
Band.
too. Yeah,
My two favorites.
those are solid picks. I was gonna
Yeah.
go with that first one, and then I think my number two, Mockingbird, Eminem.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty hard.
Brian, are you gonna
That'd
go
be
Leonard
crazy.
Skinner or what?
I feel like that's the obvious answer. Last year at the camp, I went with a couple of the counselors, and we went to wherever the local watering hole was, and I did "It Was a Good Day" by Ice Cube. I did that, which I mean, there were some baseball bros in there, and they were like, "Oh, dude!" I started high fiving them and like rapping, and like I have a whole like performance queued with that. But I think if I was gonna do it again, "Mr. Brightside" by the Killers, I think would tear the house down.
Yeah.
And then yeah, obviously "Simple Man" by Leonard Skinner. But I'm not sure. I mean, that's more of like a sentimental, emotional song. That's not really like karaoke. I want to entertain people song.
Is that the new sign off? Asking people what their top three karaoke songs are, or what?
I mean, it could be. I feel like that's kind of a random thing. Normally, we just start the conversation, then we just end the conversation. But it could be.
Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna end the conversation.
End the conversation.
Thank you guys for tuning in the show. Again, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify and all the major social media platforms. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.